There's a really good chance. I know nobody wants to overreact in speculations, but this man's body is trying to tell him something, and it might be that hockey is not for you anymore, at least from a playing standpoint. So that's a real possibility. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but it's a real possibility he's played his last game. And then for Patrick Kane to come out on a night where we're processing that information and to turn back the wheels of time and give us a vintage Patrick Kane performance, it was really cool.
We have not even really broached the subject of Toews yet. We spent the whole first half of the show talking about Kane. So why don't we begin that conversation now? And I think your comment about Jonathan Toews' Blackhawks career being potentially over, I hope he listens to his body. And look, he knows it better than anybody. But you said it, Greg. This dude's body is trying to tell him something. And when you factor in the long COVID, the immune disorder, all the concussions, all the mileage on the body, everything he's accomplished, what does Jonathan Toews have left to prove? And we were talking about, would you bring Patrick Kane back for 3 or 4 years and, let him finish his career as a Blackhawk? I can get my head around that. I almost don't feel comfortable giving Jonathan Toews another contract, for his own good. And I don't think there's many teams around the league that are going to be chomping at the bit to sign Jonathan Toews. And it's not a knock against him. It's the reality of the situation is, it'd be one thing if he just wasn't the player he used to be and the natural decline was underway. A team could say, hey, you know what? Jonathan Toews is our third-line center. That's awesome. Let's do it for 2 or 3 years and see what happens. But when he gets the flu and all of a sudden he's out indefinitely, something is wrong. Mm-hmm. And he needs to take care of himself. And that's what Kyle Davidson was saying. Look, aside from all the trade stuff, aside from his hockey future, we got to get the person healthy again.
Yeah.
That's scary, man. And I know he's an ultra competitor, and I think he's maybe wants to prove to himself that he can still do it. But, dude, I don't know what's best for Jonathan Toews. None of us do. Only he and his doctors know that. But I hope he makes the best decision for his own long-term health, because this is a dude that will have a career in hockey for a long time. It might not be as a player, but he'll be a coach. He could be in a front office somewhere. Hell, he could be a great scout. He could be a commentator. Who knows? Jonathan Toews is not just going to fade away in the hockey world.
No.
He's going to be front and center in the NHL for a long, long time. Yeah, and I hope he just listens to his body and does the right thing. I don't know what that is, but I just hope he does what's right for himself.
Yeah, he's definitely someone who has always been in tune with his body physically, whether it was, putting on weight to play a heavier game, taking off weight to be faster, changing his diet, all those things. He's definitely someone who all athletes, for the most part, scientifically look at their body and how to optimize it. But Jonathan Toews is usually at a higher level than most others when it comes to stuff like that. So I would imagine he is taking a very pragmatic approach to how to take care of himself at this point. And with the chronic immune response syndrome, I've had someone that I know go through something like that, and it's not something that goes away easily, and it's not something that is it's not easy to pinpoint what causes it or how you come back from it each time, and it's different. It could be like with Toews' instance here, he gets a flu or whatever it is, and his body just can't recover from it like normal, and it puts you on the shelf for a couple of days, couple of weeks, or it could be, I went for a 1 mile run, and for whatever reason my body hated that I did that, and now I have to sit on the couch for 2-3 days.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who's playing NHL hockey games and having to kind of battle through that. And I'm sure as he has kind of said today, or as Kyle Davidson said today, this is something that predates the NHL All-Star break of what Toews has been dealing with. And it kind of seems like all season he has been doing a tug of war back and forth with himself and what he wants to do and what his body's allowing him to do. So if he thinks he can keep going, there will be an NHL team that will give Jonathan Toews an opportunity to keep going. If he can't, if his body ultimately makes the decision for him that says you cannot be an NHL player anymore, that's going to be, I can only imagine for him how difficult of a reality that is going to be to come to, and making the decision to take time away from hockey now, to make that public so that the Blackhawks, the fans, all 31 other NHL teams will know that he's not going to be available as March 3rd comes up is good. And I hope to see him on the ice before the end of the year, because that means his body has recovered to a point in which he is healthy enough to and confident enough in it that he can play again. If we don't see him the rest of the year, then I think the retirement talks, all of that, I think there's a little bit more
He also, just like Kane, deserves his flowers from this fan base.
Oh, for sure.
And deserves to have a proper send-off. And if this was indeed Patrick Kane's last night as a Blackhawk, it will be memorable as hell. It'll be a storybook ending to a storybook career in Chicago. Probably not if he hasn't officially made that decision yet. But, man, if I was Patrick Kane, I'd be very tempted to say, you know what? That's a hell of a way to go out.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a way to be remembered, and I hope Jonathan Toews gets that sort of chance. And it doesn't have to be a hat trick. If it's the last game of the season and Jonathan Toews is on the ice, I hope that the fans at the United Center make him feel everything he deserves, because it's everything.